areas of fog in the morning, otherwise mostly cloudy with a high of 72 to 76. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's, what is the temperature right now? Let me make sure I get this right. I can't guess. You can't guess at the temperature, right, Robin? Because
you can describe it. It's nice.
You can describe it. 65 degrees. That is nice. And in fact, pretty mild temperatures today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then Thursday, things cool down a bit in the mid-40s Thursday night and Friday night, also about the lower 40s. And then back to the mid-40s by Saturday night and Sunday and Monday. I guess it's all we have is temperatures, nothing regarding the rain, unless those wavy lines mean it's going to rain.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I wanted to talk about the Diary of Anne Frank, which the book that is made from the Diary of Anne Frank is called The Diary of a Young Girl. And so we were kind of studying it this weekend because we had a song that we worked on all day Saturday, and the song is called Darling Padel, and Padel is the name of one of the people that Anne Frank writes about in her diary. Padel turned out to be a young man, a boy named Peter Schiff. You know, he would have been, 80-something years old now?
Yes.
How old would he have been?
84?
Maybe be up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Peter Schiff, and there was another Peter who lived in the secret annex with the Frank family, and I can't remember his last name.
Van.
But anyway, so and it turns out a lot of the names that she was using were pseudonyms, and her father decided to change. I'll tell you that in just a second. But anyway, so Padel was the boy she described as her one true love. And Peter Schiff, who is the real name of Padel, was somebody who was kind of a mystery to those people who studied the Diary of Anne Frank all these years. And there was a friend of Peter Schiff's, a childhood friend, who's now in his 80s, if he's still alive, I'm not sure. But I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago when it occurred to him that the picture he had been carrying around, well, not carrying around, but that he had all these years was the one from his friend Peter, who I think he moved away to Holland or wherever he moved. And they exchanged photographs, and he still had it. So he donated the picture of Peter Schiff to the Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam, I believe is where the museum is. And so it kind of struck a nerve with us. We thought, well, that's a beautiful love story right there that I don't think has been told yet. And so we kind of made notes, and we paid attention to the diary and tried to figure out extracted from the diary. And basically, this was a young girl who was thinking about a boy she spent the summer with one summer, his name being Peter, and they were walking around Amsterdam hand in hand, she says, and then he moved away, you know, and she never did see him again. But not in captivity, but in hiding, Anne Frank would often think about life outside of hiding, and so she was remembering this handsome young boy who she must have had a crush on, and he must have liked her if they were walking around hand in hand for a whole summer.
Yeah, and they had fun together too.
Yeah, so she dreams about him. She talks about him in her diary as her one true love. And then it got us to looking at the diary again. This is probably the third time in my life I've looked at this diary. The first time in school, I don't remember what grade it would have been. I'm guessing the upper grades, like junior high or high school. And I don't know if I paid attention or not. I don't remember. And then the other time was maybe 20 years ago or so, where there was a Holocaust exhibit that came through Ocala, and it was at the Central Florida Community College.
Yes, courtesy of Michael and Carol Balbus.
Yeah, and so we were kind of helping to promote that at that time, and there was a play that was put on.
Yep.
But again, certain things I guess didn't ever sink in. So in light of the fact that we have this anti-Semite attitude in this world, like forever, it's like always been a part of this world. It almost makes you wonder, well, why are so many people anti-Jewish? What is the deal with that? You say, well, okay, people aren't just anti-Jewish; they're anti-fill in the blank. You know, if you're black, you got a lot of anti-black. You got a lot of anti-Catholic.
A lot of anti-white.
You got a lot
out there,
of anti whatever. You fill in the blanks. So a lot of that. And look what's happening in France and in Germany. Well, in Germany they're anti-Islam right now. Not all of them. Oh, please don't think for one second that I meant all of them. But there's a small group that's causing a big stir. Put it that way. And then of course the extremists, the terrorists, who are absolutely adamantly opposed to you being a Christian, to you being a Jew. Hitler was against people who were Jewish. Hitler was against gypsies, however you describe a gypsy. Hitler was against those who had mental retardation.
Yep.
Hitler's laws. This is from the book, The Diary of Anne Frank. This is what she wrote. She wrote, Hitler's new laws prevented Jews... I'm sorry, I'm reading the description. Here's what she actually wrote. Here's her quote. Our freedom was severely restricted by a series of anti-Jewish decrees. Jews were required to wear a yellow star. Jews were required to turn in their bicycles. Jews were forbidden to use trams. Jews were forbidden to ride in cars, even their own. Jews were required to do their shopping between 3 and 5 p.m. So far, she's told you that Jewish people in Germany and in all the German territories were forbidden from doing anything other than walking.
Yeah.
And they could only shop for 2 hours.
Right.
Jews were required to only shop in Jewish-owned stores. They could only go to Jewish-owned barber shops and beauty parlors. They were forbidden from being out in the streets between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Jews were forbidden to attend theaters, movies, or any other form of entertainment. Jews were forbidden to use swimming pools and tennis courts and hockey fields or any other athletic field. Jews were forbidden to go rowing in a boat. They were forbidden to take part in any athletic activity in public. Jews were forbidden to sit in their gardens or those of their friends after 8 p.m. Jews were forbidden to visit Christians in their homes. And Jews were required to attend Jewish schools, and it goes on and on and on. Now, can you imagine, what's a good word here? The audacity?
That's a good word.
The insanity?
That's another good word.
Of deciding we're going to create a law, and everybody who practices a certain religion is no longer allowed to really live a free life. Everybody else is fine. And the way we're going to determine who's who is we're going to put a yellow star on you.
Yeah.
You know, or if you have some other way of identifying you, we're going to know from that. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? This is exactly what they went through. And then, of course, the concentration camps started. And Seinfeld has a bit where he says, I don't know why they called them concentration camps. They certainly weren't camping. And nobody was concentrating on anything in there except maybe how to get out.
Yeah.
But aside from Seinfeld's attempt at humorizing that horrible chapter of human history, you know what happened in the concentration camps. They were put to work like slaves, and they were killed.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that happened there. They were put to work like slaves and killed, probably even prostituted. You can imagine that that's probably part of what happened there, too.
Yeah.
Or raped is probably a better word.
Yeah.
Okay? And so Anne Frank's older sister, Margot, however you pronounce her name, received a summons to report to one of the concentration camps.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah, she was 16.
So the father said, and the father, by the way, Otto Frank, and I didn't know this. This is what I mean when I say I studied this twice before, but somehow this part never occurred to me. Mr. Frank, the father, by the way, the only person who survived after the war, and it's because of him that we have the diary to read. He actually was a German soldier in World War I. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
He actually fought for the Germans during World War I.
It's just absolutely ludicrous.
And you know why? This is a story to remember because it's all time. It's not just back then. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Some fog patches this morning, otherwise it'll be mostly cloudy, warm and rather humid today with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm from late morning on, the high 75 to 79. Mostly cloudy and mild tonight with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, mainly early, low 59 to 63. Tomorrow, areas of fog in the morning, otherwise mostly cloudy with a high of 72 to 76. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
The LPGA Tour will kick off the 2015 season right here in Central Florida at the inaugural Coates Golf Championship presented by R&L Carriers, January 26th to the 31st at Golden Ocala Golf and Equestrian Club. Kids 12 and under get in free with a ticketed adult, so bring the entire family to see 120 of the world's best female golfers compete on a nationally televised stage. For information and tickets, visit CoatesGolfChampionship.com.
This message brought to you by Urban Cardiology. Jersey Mike's Subs is giving away their subs. That's right, January 12th through the 19th, buy one sub and get the second of equal value or less for only a $2 donation to Kid Genius right here in Ocala. Kid Genius provides resources for kids with autism, like early detection, outreach programs, and more. So the next time you're hungry, pop into Jersey Mike's on Easy Street for a great tasting sub and help Kid Genius. But hurry, this is a limited time offer. For more information about Kid Genius, visit kidgeniusinc.org. Experience the golden age of aviation with a ride on a fully restored 1929 airliner, EAA's immaculate Ford Tri-Motor, when it lands at Ocala International Airport Thursday, January 15th through Sunday, January 18th. You can also take a ride on EAA's World War II B-17 bomber Aluminum Overcast, one of the greatest military aircraft of all time. Book your flights today online at b17.org and flytheford.org or call 1-800-359-6217. Hosted by EAA Chapter 812.
Hi, Danny Werfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source. WOCA.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We are talking about the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and the historic significance and the current significance of that story and of that diary, I should say. It's not a story. It was her actual recollections of what was happening at that time. There was something, just to veer for a second, there was a poem, I'm sure you've all heard it. It's credited to Martin Niemöller, who was a pastor. Pastor Martin Niemöller died in 1984. He lived from 1892 to 1984. I don't know if he was in a concentration camp himself. I think he was. And he's credited with this poem, although there are several versions. This is the one that's most popular as far as an English translation. And he writes, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me."
Yeah. Powerful.
It is why I think that sentiment is why the unity thing that you're seeing in France is so important. There was a letter written by Greta Van Susteren, and it's making the rounds this morning. And if you don't mind me reading it, "Dear French citizens, this is a personal note from me, but I suspect it represents the sentiments of many Americans. I am sorry that our president didn't go to France today and stand with your president and other world leaders against terrorism. It was an important statement to send to France, to the world, and to terrorists, and frankly, he blew it. It was a big missed opportunity for my president, and thus for all Americans. He should have gone. It was a mistake that he did not. Sometimes mistakes like that are made. I stand with you, and I think all Americans do stand with you. I had wanted the president to go to Paris today to represent how I feel and how most Americans feel after Paris was terrorized, but that did not happen. President Obama didn't just disappoint you, he disappointed many Americans today. Maybe there is a reason for his absence that I just don't know, but right now the White House has released no explanation. Despite today's absence, I know our president wants to stop world terrorism, but his bad manners today, or maybe just dropping the ball, is not something we should harbor, but rather drop and move on. It may be easier for you to drop than many Americans. As already noted, I am not happy with him tonight, but I will get over it. But in the meantime, I do want the citizens of France to know that we Americans stand with you and that we need each other to fight terrorism. I also want everyone in France to know, and this is very important, that we have not forgotten that it was the French president who was the first national leader to show up at the White House after 9/11.
Yep.
You don't forget things like that, nor have we forgotten Lafayette, who fought for us in the Revolutionary War, but that's a bit farther back. I love your nation and have spent a lot of time there over the years, from college onward. Your citizens have been friendly to Americans and to me, although many have looked askance at me when I speak my very fractured French. You could be a tad bit nicer about my French. Should be funny, I guess.
Yeah.
Our nations have had their differences over the years, but always, I know fundamentally we are friends, even when we might have some disagreements. We have the same goals and the same dreams, so I apologize for my president's absence. Tonight I am mad at him, but I will get over it, and I hope you do too. We have a bigger fight to fight than bad manners. We need to fight terrorism. And Greta Van Susteren wrote that letter, and it's circulating on the internet.
Good. I'm glad.
And what that has to do with the Diary of Anne Frank is the Diary of Anne Frank is a young girl just kind of documenting what she's going through. Mm-hmm. And if you cut to the parts about the reasons that she has to be in hiding, the reasons. I mean, think about the reasons. The fact that just being Jewish was the only reason that her father, Otto, had to basically abandon his business, hide with his entire family for how many, 2 years or whatever it was, before somebody ratted on them. I don't know that part of the story, but somebody ratted on them.
I heard it was one of the workers.
And the soldiers, the German soldiers, I guess, the Nazis, came and rounded them up and brought them all to concentration camps. Let's see, Otto was the only one who lived. The heroes in the story are Miep and Jan Gies. Is that how you say their names? Miep and Jan. And I believe Miep just died not too long ago. The wife.
Yes.
Otto Frank was liberated from Auschwitz by the Russian army. He was taken there to Odessa and then to France before he was allowed to make his way back to Amsterdam.
Gosh. Yeah, it's very, very interchangeable what Anne Frank wrote and what's going on today. You can just take away the word Jew and put in any other word, and that's the way it's happening today.
And it's still happening for the Jewish people, too.
Yes, it is.
Because if you think about what the extremists are opposed to, they're opposed to the nation of Israel. And they don't like us because we support them.
Yes.
We support them. I think we have enough support also. I mean, I can empathize absolutely with the Palestinians who want their own place as well. I'll never get the whole problem with sharing Jerusalem. I'll never get that. I'll never get why they can't say, hey, it's like, why can't it be like St. Paul? You got two states that share St. Paul, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, why can't it be like that? Why does it have to be murder and rock throwing and spitting? Why does that have to happen?
Or why can't it be like the Vatican? I mean, it's like there.
Right. And speaking of the Vatican, we need somebody who is like the Pope, who is a leader of the Muslim community, a big Muslim, like a big Catholic is the Pope.
Yes.
He's like the top Christian, I guess you would say, even though a lot of non-Catholic Christians don't revere the Pope as the way as Catholics do.
Right.
But there needs to be somebody speaking up for the Muslims to say, and it has to be a Muslim, who says, look, you Muslims who are extremist Muslims don't represent us.
That's right.
And you're excommunicated or whatever would be the term.
Yeah, and nobody is standing up like that, and they need to. They need to. We have mosques in this country, and they need to stand up. Point a leader and stand up and say it.
So a couple of more things. I know I'm going on a lot of different tangents here, but it's all stemming from us re-looking at the book The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. By the way,
Opens a lot of eyes.
a lot of the things that were missing from the original publication of the diary were left out, I guess, because they were considered taboo, naughty. She was writing about her sexual thoughts and things like that. So a lot of that stuff was left out, and then they republished it with the complete text, I guess.
Right.
And if you go to the house that they were hiding out in, if you go there, I guess you can better understand that the diary that she had, it started out as an autograph book. It wasn't intended to be a diary. It was intended to, walk around as a blank book, basically. And she loved writing. The diary has since sold more than 30 million copies. 1 year from this month, it goes into public domain. And so there are people scampering right now to try to see if they can still make some money from it.
Yeah.
People writing plays, et cetera, like that.
Sure. Maybe Ron Howard will pick this up. Or Brian Grazer.
She writes to Kitty. I wanted to tell you this. In her diary, she writes, "Dear Kitty, scholars are divided about who Kitty is and why she chose Kitty as the name she was writing to. She had a friend before the war started named Kathy Aggeti, who she referred to as Kitty. But Kathy Aggeti, who survived a concentration camp, later said she didn't believe that the letters were meant for her. So though the other option would be that Kitty was a character in a book by Jupe Terhule, in which the title character's best friend was named Kitty. Not all of the writing in Anne Frank's book were addressed to Kitty. She had letters addressed to Connie and Marianne and Emmy and Pop as well.
Gosh. And I thought at one point we had read that she named the book Kitty, like she had to write to somebody, so she just picked out.
And it wasn't all in the book, by the way. She had a lot of just loose papers, 360 pages of loose leaf in addition to the book. So once the book was filled, she was continuing writing her diary on loose paper.
Yeah, exactly.
That she would stick in the book.
Very fascinating stuff. Interesting read.
German officers raided the building they were hiding in on August 4th, 1944, and they made the arrests. The arresting officer, Karl Silberbauer, later said he vividly remembered arresting the Franks and even told Otto, "What a lovely daughter you have." Doesn't that make you a little sick?
It does.
Silberbauer's actions were discovered in 1963, and he was suspended from his job with the Viennese police force because they found out that he was the one who arrested the Frank family. He is quoted as saying, "Why pick on me after all these years? I only did my duty. Now I'm suspended and I have just bought some new furniture. How am I going to pay for it?"
Gee.
Chris.
That's all he cares about.
Silberbauer also later admitted that he bought a copy of The Diary of a Young Girl to see if he had been mentioned in it.
Oh, of course.
But he was not. Of course, how could he be mentioned in it? They took them away.
That's right.
And the diary was left behind.
That's right. She didn't write after that.
Anne Frank did not die in the gas chamber. She died in a concentration camp in Bergen-Belsen. She was emaciated, basically starved. Her sister, her older sister, Margot, had died of typhus, and that's how Anne died also.
Oh, gosh.
She died in March of 1945, just a few weeks before the British liberated the camp that she was in.
Gosh.
The Russians liberated the camp that her father, Otto, was in.
Gosh. And the U.S. knew about those camps, and there wasn't any...
Well, we were fighting.
Yeah.
People always say that. People always say we didn't do our part, but we did do our part.
Yeah.
We did a
right.
huge part. Are you kidding?
We fought. No, but that was some of the things that I read too, so.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for that.
Fascinating stuff.
Let's talk about cars next. There's a lot of car news in the news lately. Matt Gibbs is going to be here just a little bit. He is our mechanic, and the show is called Auto Repair with Personal Care. We'll do that when we come back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. France taking extra precautions after last week's terror attacks, stationing 10,000 troops at sensitive sites.
The defense minister in Paris says that's almost as many soldiers as France has deployed abroad. The French government says 3.7 million people attended anti-terror rallies yesterday, but the hunt continues for the widow of one attacker. She's now thought to be in Syria.
Fox Radio's Simon Owen. Cuba has completed release of 53 political prisoners, part of a deal struck last month between the U.S. and Cuba. Some surprises at the Golden Globe Awards last night.
Boyhood was the big winner with 3 awards in film and in television: Fargo, Transparent, and The Affair.